When you think of Bob Marley, you probably think of the music, right? Well, according to our source material, that's really just scratching the surface.
Yeah, see, he wasn't just making music. He was building, get this, a pan-African nervous system, one bass line at a time. It's a really powerful idea, right? So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what that means.
All right, so what was Marley's unique role in this whole movement? He wasn't the guy writing the theories, you know? He was the broadcaster.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how Marley is positioned here, right alongside these absolute giants of Pan-African thought. You've got intellectuals like Wilmot Blyden, who laid out the theories. You've got organizers like Marcus Garvey, who mobilized millions of people. And you've got leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, who actually governed new nations. But Marley, his role was totally different. He took all those complex, powerful ideas, and he broadcasted them to the entire world. His genius wasn't about inventing the ideas themselves, it was about distribution on a scale nobody had ever seen before.
Okay, so if Marley was the broadcaster, what was he broadcasting? What was the actual message? Let's kind of decode the playlist and figure out what was really embedded in those songs. So let's get right to it. What was the message? Because it was so much more than just peace and love. It was a really deep political and philosophical framework.
His music was packed with these pretty radical ideas. The idea that Africa was a real political homeland, not just some faraway metaphor. He framed Rastafari as more than a religion. It was a full-on Pan-African worldview. And his lyrics? A total rejection of colonial systems, a call for unity through awareness, and this powerful idea that liberation theory isn't for academics, it belongs to the masses, to everyone. And this lyric just perfectly captures it. When Marley sang Africa Unite, he wasn't just hoping, it was an instruction, a call to action. It's a whole political project, this journey from an oppressive present he called Babylon to a liberated future in our father's land.
Now, to really get what he's talking about, you have to understand the word Babylon. This wasn't just some old biblical reference. For Marley, Babylon was the name for the whole system of oppression, all of it locked together. We're talking colonialism, racism, capitalism, exploitation, all the stuff that keeps people trapped, both in their bodies and in their minds.
And what's the opposite of Babylon? Well, that's Zion, or Africa. So the core struggle in all his music is right here. It's this constant fight between oppression and liberation, between exploitation and dignity, between mental slavery and true consciousness. And this wasn't just a spiritual concept. It was literally the political map of the world that he was laying out in every single song.
Which brings us to a really key point. It wasn't just about what he was saying, but how he was saying it. The sound itself, that was the strategy. And man, it was the perfect political weapon.
So you got to ask yourself, why music? Why was that the perfect way to deliver these radical ideas? I mean, why not write a book or give a bunch of speeches?
Well, because music has these superpowers, really. It can sneak right past government censors. It travels way faster and way further than any book or political speech ever could. And here's the kicker. A song gets inside your head without you even realizing it, and it just stays there. It takes a huge abstract idea and connects it straight to your emotions, turning what might be a single person's thought into this big shared experience. And this is so crucial. Think about it. People will argue with a speech all day long, right? But a song, they carry that inside them. Marley's whole method was designed for this. It was meant to be internalized, to make the revolution feel like it was a part of your own heartbeat. And that was the genius of it. You didn't need a degree in political science. You didn't have to read all the books by Blyden or Garvey. All you had to do was sing along. And just by doing that, you were absorbing the very core of their philosophy. He basically made Pan-Africanism available to everybody. But look, this wasn't just talk, and it wasn't just music. Marley's commitment was the real deal. So now let's look at liberation in action, from his beginnings in Trenchtown all the way to the front lines of African independence. To put it simply, he put his body on the line for his beliefs. He wasn't just singing about liberation from some safe, comfortable place. He actually showed up. And there is no better example of this than the Zimbabwe independence concert in 1980. Just think about how huge that was. He was there, on stage, at the exact moment a new nation was being born, celebrating the end of white minority rule. And get this, when there were problems with funding, he didn't just walk away, he refused to be paid, and actually paid for his band's travel and all the equipment himself. This was so much more than a concert. It was a massive act of political and spiritual solidarity.
And that brings us to what might be his most radical, most lasting contribution, all summed up in that legendary line from Redemption's song, "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds." Wow. That's not just a beautiful lyric, is it? It's a core diagnosis of the Pan-African struggle.
See, Marley got something really profound. He understood that political freedom, getting the new flag, the anthem, the elections, all of that is fragile. It can't last without a deeper internal liberation, a kind of mental decolonization. Because if you don't have that consciousness, that dignity, that self-worth, all that freedom you want on the outside can just crumble. The two have to go hand in hand.
And this leads us perfectly into our final section, which is all about the unique kind of power Marley had. A power that was all about consciousness, not about controlling states.
This right here really brings it all home. Politicians, they negotiate for power. But Marley, he changed consciousness. And here's the massive difference. Political power can be taken away. A government can fall, a leader can be kicked out. But a change in consciousness, that gets inherited. It's passed down from parents to children, from one generation to the next, and that is a much, much more powerful thing.
So let's bring it full circle, back to where we started. If Edward Blyden gave Pan-Africanism its philosophy, and Marcus Garvey gave it a mass movement, and Kwame Nkrumah gave it the power of a state, then what did Bob Marley do? He gave it a heartbeat. He's the one who made the struggle something you could hear, something you could sing, something you could never, ever forget.
And at the end of the day, long after governments have fallen and movements have split apart, his music is still out there, broadcasting that same steady message. A message that still resonates so powerfully today, whispering to anyone out there who feels pushed to the side. You are not small. You are not lost. You are not alone.